And the live stream should be working now. All right. So we last we met, we were closing in towards the end of Siman Reish Mem Gimel. Let me put it on the screen so that you can follow along that way. Okay, there you go. We were up to the last, the last discussion in this topic, which was what happens if you have an arrangement that was not permitted. We've talked about what kinds of arrangements in profit businesses are allowed. Right, you could have a sharecropper arrangement, or you could have an arrangement where you rent the business out, you get paid a fixed amount, and the non-Jewish person works the business, takes all the profits. Or they got a sharecropper arrangement where the Jew actually does make profits, but it's what we call it's the Jew is nene min hatzad. He's like, he benefits, as a kind of like a side benefit, but he's not. But the non-Jew really is working for his own benefit.
You didn't get an answer to my question, did you?
Yes, I have an answer to your question, Hina. So I asked Rabbi Weeder the question. He told me, I'm just pulling up his language, I don't want to misquote him here, but his response to me was he thought it was prohibited because here, let me read you his answer. He said to me,
"Can you re-ask the question?"
Yeah. So the question that Hinda had asked was, what about a business that functions with tips, where tips are customary? It's not like an abnormal situation where normally there's a tip. Can such a business be run on Shabbos? Because you could argue that the non-Jew is working a daite and nafshe. That he's working because he wants to make because part of the profits of the business, like a sharecropper arrangement, are going to the non-Jew, and thus they're not so much my shaliach, which is the problem, which would be a problematic relationship, which is what it means to be a worker, even though they get paid, but they don't share any of the profits. If I make $1 million that day, or I make $10, they don't get the $1 million. They don't get a portion of the $1 million. They get their salary, whatever they make. But if they take a percentage of every percentage of the profits, like a sharecrop arrangement, would that is permissible? So the question is, where does a business that functions on tips, what do we say about that? So he had said to me in response to that question, that I think he wrote, I think that it is usher if the person was only paid in tips or primarily. Then he said, maybe I would hear the argument, but the bottom line is that the person works for the owner on an hourly or daily basis, and thus he is doing so primarily for the wage, and thus doing the shlichut of the owner. Meaning, he said that there are two essential situations going on here. There's your salary, and then there are the tips, and the tips, well, it's true that you're making money there. He's basically saying that the Shulchan Aruch heter, as explicitly given, is when it's shown it's profit sharing, when on the actual, not purchase, but on the actual, whatever you want to call it, on the items that are being bought and sold. And he said he actually wrote that on I threw out the example of a parking garage. Right, he said to me, on further consideration, that I think it's categorically us. The arrangement when it is permitted is where it's totally up to the receiver how much to work, and his incentive is that the more he or she produces, the more he or she gets, since they're getting a percentage. But in the case I had the parking garage, right? The person has to work all of their hours. They can't choose to work, I'll work 2 hours today, or I'll work 50 hours today. That's where a sharecrop arrangement is permissible, because the person can choose how much they want to produce. Once I'm telling you as the business owner, you have to work the shift on Shabbos of 8 hours or 9 hours, then you are my shaliach, and that's amira la'akum. Even though it's true, he'll get some tips, but how much he earns may be determined. It's true by how good a job he does. He may get a few more dollars based on tips if he does a good job. But the point is that worker still has to work the hours. So perhaps maybe you can work out an arrangement where basically the guy can say, I'll choose to show up. I choose to show up. If I don't, I don't. Though I don't know if that's a good way to run a business in a practical way. So the point is that the worker has to have complete control over how much he or she chooses to work, whether that's 0 or that's 40 hours. Because if they're working 6 set fixed hours that I've worked out for them, then they are really still my shaliach.
So like in a hair salon or a nail salon where the actual person who does the work makes the appointment for you. The owner is not involved in making appointments. So that would be okay. And they pay less than minimum wage. So, that would be okay because their incentive is really to have as many appointments as they can. And the owner's not in charge of making appointments.
Right. Yeah, I hear. That's interesting. So you're saying that the worker is in charge. But the question is there are they supposed to meet some sort of number, or no, the person, if the owner really feels like, hey, I'm giving you space, you do you, and I get a percentage of whatever you make, then maybe that would be a permissible arrangement because then the worker is in complete control. And also the they do take a share of, I guess, each haircut. So that may be a permissible arrangement. I'll follow up and ask that question explicitly with the hair salon, but this was his response to me on the issue, which I think really drives home also again that the importance of how the non-Jew really can function independently and not have any chiyuvim obligations that he or she has to work a certain amount of hours on Shabbos. That already becomes a problem. Okay. Excellent question. So, let me just make sure to follow up on that. I'm going to try to remember that. Okay.
And Rav, I missed last week's shiur, and I don't know if the question was raised, but it seems to me that we have totally debunked the notion of the Shabbos Goy.
The Shabbos Goy is very problematic. I said this from the top when we started the shiur in Hilchot Shabbos. I gave a disclaimer and a warning. I said that there are things we're going to learn along the way that may not be things we always want to hear. But I'm just telling you what it says. But yes, the Shabbos Goy is not so simple. I think in the context of a shul, it is a much more permissible thing, and we will cover that when we get there. But I think that also maybe where a lot of the confusion comes from, because we see certain things happening in shul, and we say, well, if it can happen in shul, why can't it happen in my own home? And it is actually not so. It is not so simple to say it's permissible. There are certain arrangements, certain situations, and we will talk about them where it would be. Okay, very good. Now, the last thing that the Ramah covers in this siman is, again, as I was saying before, what happens when something is done and it is not permissible, the arrangement that was made. So you have over here, top of the page, let me show you with my arrow, right over here. Okay. And v'im avar v'hiskiro b'makom ha'aser. What happens? So let's say you go ahead and you go forward with the arrangement that was not permissible. Now the money was made. So what do you do? What happens to the non-Jew who made the money, right? Whatever the arrangement was, they brought in the money. Yesh omrim. So, and Right. So what do you do? So he wants to pay you the money, right? He made the money from working on Shabbos in the bathhouse, and it was not permissible to work in the bathhouse, even though maybe it was just a maris ayin issue, also perhaps, whatever it is. So what happens to the schar? Yesh omrim shescharo mutter. You shouldn't have done it, but now that it's been done, the gaonim say that it's mutter. It's permissible to take the profits. The Yesh Omrim, the Mordechai says, she'aser, that it is prohibited, and the Ramah takes the approach and the opinion that the prohibited opinion is the Ikar opinion, is the really the correct opinion, and it says here also, take a look though in 2 simanim from now in Reish and Mem Hey for further discussion about this issue about whether it's aser or mutter.
So the Ramah holds mutar?
Aser. V'yesh omrim she'aser v'chein ikar. And that is the essential opinion here, is that it is prohibited. It is prohibited to take those profits. So what do? You just I guess you tell the non-Jew, keep it. It's all yours. I don't want to touch it.
Because what I have in my sefer is the Gaonim. He refers to the Beis Yosef.
Right, the Beis Yosef had quote. That's a quote from the Beis Yosef in the name of the Gaonim, and then the second opinion reflects that of the Mordechai, who is one of the Ashkenazi Rishonim, who was a student of the Rosh, and he says that it is prohibited. Now
Okay.
we'll talk a little bit more now why that is the case. Let's scroll down here, and let's take a look at the very last comment of the Mishnah Berurah on this topic. And my Aruch HaShulchan, where did it go? Walked off. Okay, hopefully we'll do okay with just Mishnah Berurah here. Yesh omrim shescharo muter v'chulei. So what do we take away from this? What do we learn? V'achronim hiskimu delo plige. The Achronim solve this situation by saying the rabbis are not arguing here. The one that say permissible, the one that say prohibited, they're not arguing about actually. They're talking about 2 different cases. The mutter midina, when it is permissible according to the letter of the law, kagon shehiskir hamerchatz le'eno Yehudi lishana or lechodesh. You rent out the business to the non-Jew for a year, for a month, for a fixed amount of time. There's no problem here of business being done on Shabbos, meaning that I'm, as the Jew, personally doing business here on Shabbos. I'm not paying you to run the business on Shabbos. I don't get any of the profits. It's your business. I rented it out to you for the year. You gave me one fixed fee, and that's it. Or maybe you pay me your monthly installments, right? And there's no problem of schar Shabbos where it's like I'm getting individually paid for how you use it on Shabbos. Leka, right? That's not there. The halohu b'havla. The guy's just paying me at a yearly fixed rate or a monthly fixed rate. It's not about. It's all swallowed up together. The Shabbos payment. Ve'eno aser el mishum maris ha'ayin. Whole reason kenizkar le'el b'sif aleph, as we talked about at the beginning of this siman. There's a problem still perhaps of maris ayin, because people will assume it's not a schirus arrangement because it's not normal for that business, let's say. So people will assume what I'm doing is problematic. The non-Jew is working on my behalf on Shabbos, which is not really true. So lachein b'diavad muter lekabel haschar meha'ena Yehudi. When the non-Jew comes to pay me the monthly payment, so because he used my business over that month, so it's okay for me to take the payment, even though part of that arrangement, that arrangement was prohibited because it led to people a maris ayin issue on Shabbos. Even though Medina, according to the letter of the law, it's permissible, but because of the maris ayin issue, which again is codified here in Shulchan Aruch, and as well, this doesn't come from nowhere. Okay, so it comes from the Gemara. Then it is okay after the fact to take the payment from the non-Jew. Mash'einke, but that's not the case. If, let's say, I rent out the business for just a few days, right? For Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So that's literally individualized payments. The Medina Osir, Mishum Schar Shabbos, because now I'm getting paid for, here's the rental for for Shabbos. Thank you for allowing me to use your business on Shabbos. Here's the rental. Flat fee. I'm not getting profits here from the business. That is still problematic. Because that's called Schar Shabbos. He's paying me, he or she is paying me for having used my business, for having rented out my business just on Shabbos. It's a one-shot payment, right? As opposed to being behavla as part of a larger subset, larger set. I'm paying for the year, I'm paying for the month. Here I'm paying for Shabbos. So that's problematic. And I would add also, furthermore, that if the arrangement is one where he or she is just simply working for me, and so now I'm bringing in profits because of the work that the non-Jew did. And now at the end of the day, they say, "Hey, take a look at the cash register. There's a lot of money waiting for you." So what do I do with that money? He says, "Here, no, better yet, I'll bring the cash register to you as you're making havdalah." So here, look at how much money you made today. Or here's what I'm paying you for the usage of Shabbos today, and they're bringing me the money. Osir lekabel hemenu. I should say it's prohibited for me to accept the money. I should just tell them it's fine. You're a sweet person. Keep the money. It's all yours. And therefore, I will not have made any profits from work that was inappropriately done, not just because of a maris ayin issue, but it was actually not supposed to, a situation where my profiting is really problematic. As we will see when we get to Reish Mem Hey Sivav, we will talk about this issue a little bit more in depth about profiting from an arrangement where it will be problematic for me to get involved. But what happens after the fact, once the money has been made? What do I do with the money? Can I keep the money? So we'll talk more about this topic a little bit. And also, if the imhamelacha mutelas al Yisrael, if the labor really falls upon the Jew, is attributed to the Jew, that the malacha that's being done. So we'll talk about this more in Reish Mem Hey. Reish Mem Hey, we'll talk about the idea of a partnership between a Jew and a non-Jew, and what happens if they make such an arrangement where the things on Shabbos. The arrangement on Shabbos is that I, the non-Jew, get all the profits on Shabbos, and you, let's say, get all the profits on Wednesday, and the other days we share. So can such an arrangement be permissible where they share? They're co-owners of the business. So we will talk about that, and is that a kind of a schar Shabbos where I'm trading Shabbos for another day? Is that permissible or is that not permissible? So we're going to talk much more about this when we get to Reish Mem Hey. Okay, comments or questions before we move on to the next siman? I am just trying to find my Aruch HaShulchan here on my desk, which is not the most organized, unfortunately. My kids have been home for their now remote learning. WVS is on remote learning now. Oh, here it is. I found it. Okay. All right. So as we transition to the next siman, by the way, the Aruch HaShulchan, when it comes to this question about can you profit or can you not profit, I think he says exactly the same thing where it depends on the arrangement. Meaning it's mutter when it's technically okay, but it was only maris ayin, and it's prohibited to keep it if it was a real problem because of how the arrangement was done. Okay. The Aruch HaShulchan, I think, writes this so well, so I'm going to pull off from the screen for a second so you can see me. The Aruch HaShulchan writes the following at the beginning of Reish Mem Daled. B'siman HaKodem, in the siman that we just read, Nisbar be'inyonei asakim shel Yisrael ha'ondim l'revach. We were talking about businesses that were owned by Jews, which were profit-seeking businesses. Kemosados, merchats, tanur, echayim, the field, the bathhouse, the oven, the communal kitchen, the mill. When is it? How can we rent out this business to a non-Jew and it would be permissible to have benefited from the fact that they use the business and even using the business on Shabbos. The we saw that the only way it's permissible is when it's a sharecropper arrangement. Or if it's a rent, the business is rented out, and there's a fixed amount that the non-Jew is paying to the Jewish business owner for the usage. And again, it would need to be for a fixed amount of time, whether it's a month, a year, a week, even could be technically permissible, as long as it's not just for a certain fixed, 1 day here, 1 day there. But if the non-Jew is hired as a kablan, meaning kablan means that you get paid to do a job, and when you complete and finish the job, you get paid. Meaning it's not an hourly wage, it's not a weekly wage. You get paid when you do the job.
He's referring there to a day worker.
I would say that a kablan is not a day worker. We would call it a schir yom, where you get paid by the day. Okay. Kablan gets paid by the job. Think about it as a contractor. And the profits go all to the owner, but the owner only pays a fixed amount to the kablan, to this contracted worker. A davar kotzuv l'shana, maybe it's a yearly. I'm paying you this. This is what you're going to make no matter what. You could produce 100 or one widget. You'll get a fixed, you get a fixed amount. Maybe also you get a fixed amount per widget, I should say, not so much for just the whole year. You're getting a fixed amount over a certain period for the jobs that you need to do. So yesh machlokas. So we have an argument here about how do we view a kablan situation? Is that permissible or prohibited? V'harbe osrim, many say it's prohibited. V'cheinikar, and we're going to see that seems to be the opinion of many, that it is a prohibited arrangement. V'gam hamatirim lo hetiru rak basada, and those who permit, maybe they only permit such an arrangement in the field, and we'll explain why. And he explains then, ubesimin zed, the siman now that we're going to learn, the difference, we were talking about profit businesses in the previous siman. Now we're not talking about profit businesses. We're talking about the needs of a person. I need a new suit. I need a new shirt. Min alim, I need new shoes. Ubinyan batim, I need a new house. And other examples. And I hire a non-Jew to sew me a sweater, or to make me a shoe, or to build me a house. So, and we're paying them shesacharo litfor bigdo velasos lomin alam. I'm paying for you doing the thing that I need. It's not a profit here that I'm making. A profit business. I need something. Whether they use the Jewish money to buy let's say the yarn to make the sweater. I mean, they take my money, or they take my merchandise, right? My yarn to do it, or they go and buy their own yarn to do it, and then maybe I'll be charged at the end, however they work out the arrangement. Meaning, if the arrangement was, I'll pay you for every day that you work, so daily worker like Simeon was talking about, and okay, you make me a shoe, and for every day that you work to make the shoe or to make the sweater, I pay you. That's prohibited. And then if I ask you to do it on Shabbos, that's prohibited. Even if the non-Jew is doing it, in the privacy of their own home, because I'm paying you for work that you do on Shabbos. You can't do that, right? It was directly a payment for work you're doing on Shabbos. But if it's done by kablanos, I'd say I pay you for the sweater. You take 2 weeks to make the sweater. You take 2 minutes to make the sweater. I pay you I pay you an amount. That's it. I pay you this to make me to sew me to sew me the beged. Or this is what I'm going to pay you for the shoes. Fixed amount. Or the same for a house. When it comes to metaltalin, things that we call movables, a sweater, shoes, such things, that's permissible. I tell you, I come to the store on Wednesday and I say, I'd like you to They go to the tailor. Can you make me a shirt? Here are my sizes. And I'll pay you X for the shirt. Turns out, what did he do? He said, okay, great. Said, I'll do it for you. And then I go back home. He or she chooses to make me the beged on Shabbos. They say, okay, that's when I have time. And they sew me the beged on Shabbos. Is this permissible? I'm paying for a beged that was made on Shabbos, that I commissioned. And the answer is yes, that's permissible. That is a permissible arrangement.
This goes back to the question that Hinda asked before. The answer was, as long as the worker has control over what time he does it.
Correct. Excellent, Steve. Yes. And that's exactly why this is permissible. Because the non-Jew can choose when to do that work. I didn't say do it on Shabbos. I said I need a sweater. You chose to make it on Shabbos. That's your own business. The only time it may be problematic is if I force the non-Jew to do it on Shabbos. An example of that would be the following. Let's say on Friday, 10 minutes before Shabbos, I go to the dry cleaner and I say to the dry cleaner, I desperately need this suit to be cleaned and ready for usage on Saturday night. Okay? So, and I tell them I will be here 10 minutes after Havdalah. So now I have essentially given them 20 minutes to complete the job not on Shabbos, 10 minutes before Shabbos and 10 minutes after Shabbos, after Havdalah. I have essentially asked them to do the business to clean my suit on Shabbos. Okay, I just got muted by okay, 1 second. But if I engage in the dry cleaner, I need the suit cleaned, but I don't give him a date. Or let's say I need it by Sunday, by the way. I need it Sunday midday. I have a wedding Sunday night. That is going to be permissible because I never force the person that is non-Jewish who runs that business or who's doing that activity for me. I never force them to do it on Shabbos, even if they go ahead and do the dry cleaning on Shabbos itself. That is permissible. This is why I said in an earlier context, and I'll probably have to stop because I know the davening is going to start in just a few minutes. And this is a good introduction to Reish Mem Daled, which talks about the big question is, can you have a contractor work? You're having them do work on your house. How do you pay a contractor for a house? I pay them for the job. So wouldn't it be permissible then maybe they do it on their own schedule? I'm not so makpid that it'd be done by Sunday. When you build a new house, you hope that it gets done in a year, 6 months. You're not saying, I need you to, work, have it done by this Sunday. We'd love for that to be a real possibility. But that's not how it works. Can the non-Jewish contractor continue to build my house on Saturdays as well? And we'll talk about that question. But I've said in other contexts when we started studying Hilchot Shabbat that one of the perhaps prohibited things that we're going to see that maybe you didn't want to know about is, again, if you force the non-Jewish business to do what you need to do on Shabbos, 10 minutes before Shabbos starts, you need to overnight a package or an overnight something to somebody, maybe as part of your business. So if you give them 10 minutes to do it and you dafka pay for the overnight, which means that they have to do this business on Shabbos for you. They have to make sure that your package is flown from New York to Los Angeles overnight that night. It's not a question. They can't do it otherwise because that's what you've told them to do. That may actually be a prohibited arrangement to overnight something where you force the non-Jew to work on Shabbos. So we will talk about some of these arrangements where it will be permitted and where it will be prohibited. But as Steve pointed out very well, the key factor in a lot of these is going to be, does the non-Jew control the time? Or am I forcing them, because of our arrangement, to have to do things on Shabbos? There will be things where there'll be some exception cases here and there. Oh, and I have a visitor in my room here who just woke up. So we'll end it here, and we'll continue this topic of Reish Mem Daled next time. Take care, everybody.